But everything's a lesson. Everything's here to teach us, isn't it? Being put in a box and a label, attachments that we create over the years.
Hello, ladies and gents, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, first and foremost, a quick apology before I introduce my beautiful guest today. Sorry for not doing a video on Monday. I was traveling and I didn't have the capacity or the time to be able to record something before I actually left where I was. So my huge apologies, but hopefully this is going to make up for it. So today I am joined with the absolutely beautiful Leanne Brown. I have never met Leanne in person, but I have watched her grow over the last few years whilst we have been in this nonsense that was COVID. And Leanne and I were doing very similar, you know, we were out there speaking and talking about the perceived truth of the world, etc. But what I've really got in tune with Leanne on over the last maybe 3-4 months is the evolution that she's on, the journey that she's on, the soul, like, you know, the journey that I'm witnessing with you, Leanne, is absolutely magical. And it probably doesn't feel like it with you at times, but from an outsider looking in, it is absolutely magical. And I resonate with it so much. So first and foremost, Leanne, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, it's absolutely incredible to be able to speak to you. I know we've spoken on Messenger and things like that, but to actually be able to sit down and have a conversation with you is fantastic. And I really appreciate you freeing up your time to do this. So Leanne, for those, I'm going to assume that nobody in my following knows you. They will do, but that's not the point. If we can just assume that nobody knows you, can I just have like a little, you know, 2-minute spiel of, you know, who are you, where have you come from, where are you based, what are you doing, that kind of thing?
So I am based in Cheshire, but I am definitely, I've come sort of on such a journey, as a lot of you probably know, and started off, well, I was actually a Cumbrian girl growing up, so yeah, and then moved to Manchester, big city, met my partner Wes and become branded as a wag, as they say. So I've had a lot of labels over the years, and then I went on to the Real Housewives of Cheshire, reality TV. That was a real journey in itself, and that, what I always say, was the start of my journey stepping into my authentic self, because yeah, definitely. So I can't say I regret that, because I don't know if I regrets, but also it was a real eye-opener for me to sort of just see my friendship group around me. And I mean, most of the girls were friends when we went into that, so it made me see things from a totally bird's eye view. I never really I would say fit in. I never felt like it was really me to be in that environment, you know.
Yeah. And
I felt like I was just always putting on a show, but in life in general, I'm talking about materialistic side of things. Anyways, coming away from that, went and did some charity work and seen the about women and trying to empower women, being in that environment that was quite a toxic environment. Went to Kenya, and that just sort of just changed everything really, and then began my sort of spiritual journey and embarked on, yeah, just learning more and more about myself and peeling back the layers, which I'm still doing.
Yeah, that's the most challenging journey of all, isn't it? When you're brave enough to look at yourself and then say, right, I'm going to just start taking a little peek, and then you go, oh my God, I don't like that. And you kind of repel yourself away from it. And then you go back and you're like, but I have to do this. And you peel it back a little bit more and you're like, oh my God, that feels horrible. But it's like you say, it's a magical journey, right? And I don't know about your opinion, Leanne, but I feel like it never stops. It's never going to stop.
No.
Every time we take a step forwards, it's 10 back, right?
Yeah, because I think, oh, I've done this work, and even now I have really struggled. Well, I have struggled a lot about with imposter syndrome, and you know, like I just said then about judgment of being put in a box and a label, and that has been really hard for me. And even now, I'll go through a good patch and then I'll do something else. You know, I've been writing the Divine Power course through our Eat, Pray, Love website, you know, with the retreats. So because I want to make it accessible, like the healing and the self-love to more people. So,
Amazing.
and actually writing that has just given me such much more confidence, because I didn't realize how much I actually knew until I sat down and started writing it, you know. So yeah, there's always blocks to come up against, isn't there? But that is part of the beauty, because if we don't understand ourselves and if we don't experience all the things that we are sharing to help others, then you know we can't, well, said that wrong. So if we don't experience and we can't share what we've, our own healing, can we? We have to continue the healing. I'm not making any sense.
No, you are making total sense. It's when you step through it yourself, you can be really authentic about it. That's what we're talking about here, right? It's easy for me to be like, well, you know, cancer this, cancer that, or, you know, babies this, babies that. But if you've never experienced it, like, how can you resonate with somebody that's going through it? So I agree with you completely. And it's one of my mantras, you know, I'm never going to believe what I'm told. I need to walk the walk to be able to see it. And then I go, okay, now I've regretted that being my mindset so many times. I've been humbled with it, but it's just me. It's ingrained in me. So I get that with you. Now, before we step on, because I really do want to predominantly look at the self-love stuff, your spiritual journey, the evolution. And by the way, everybody, we're going to put the links that Leanne has just spoken about underneath this video so that you can easily access her and her social media and stuff like that. So that will all be in the description below. So do go and check that out. Let's start with the Cheshire Housewives, right? I've never, ever, ever watched a program like that in my life, just so you know. So I'm a little bit ignorant about it, but I can imagine what you had to go through, you know, not what it looks like to the public or anything like that. What was your biggest lesson, or what was your biggest learning going through that program, babe?
The biggest learning was that the friendship that I was in, that wasn't real. And actually, like I say, stepping into my truth and my power, standing up for myself. I feel like I've always kept myself small and kept myself in the background, even from being at school. And we're talking about healing and things that we're experiencing that are pulling us back to our past and making us really see why we are the way we are. And it all stems from our past lives even, but childhood is it sticks with us, doesn't it? All the small traumas that then continue to then replay until we realize that that's where it began. And all through even my school life, you know, I picked strong sort of women with strong personalities, and I stayed in the background, and that continued really. And as I got older, and that the Housewives was, I felt like the first time I've sort of stood up for myself properly, you know, and stood into my truth. And and that was the biggest enlightening thing for me. Like, and also just the environment I was in. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. We had a lot of fun, and there was some genuine friendships in there, but ultimately, just the materialistic side of it as well, you know. That's talk openly about having a shopping addiction, and I suppose so. The whole rounded, the bigger picture is it was just relationships in general. That was the biggest lesson. About my relationship with myself, my relationship with my friendship groups, and my relationship with my partner as well, and what I was doing to fill a hole that couldn't be filled, because it was my relationship with myself that needed to be worked on more than anything.
So what's really interesting is what you said there is actually very, very brave. You were extremely brave going into a situation whereby you were totally uncomfortable, like being with a footballer first and foremost. That's not sitting in the background. Hang on, I've just got to stop this, Leanne. I'm sorry, one sec.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I just got a knock on my door, so I had to pause the video. So, Leanne, I'm sorry. What I was saying is that for me, listening to you, bearing in you wanted to sit in the background and you wanted to be hidden away. For me, dating a footballer was a bloody brave move, first and foremost, because you're never going to be hidden in the background, are you? So that was a massive catapult for you. And I know we can't help who we fall in love with and all the rest of it before people say, oh, but my point is, that's so brave of you to do that, first and foremost. Secondly, how brave were you to go on a program whereby I imagine the whole of the UK were watching it and, making judgments and, oh, I like this one, I don't like that one, and getting involved in, because I see it would be like a bit of a Big Brother, but just with women who live in their own houses in Cheshire. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it's it was filming a few times a week. It wasn't that invasive, but it was just you had to turn up certain places and then they would film you, and then obviously create different conflicts.
So more like the Only Way is Essex kind of thing, rather than a Big Brother.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living in a house with all those people, but okay. So that again was really, really brave. So as much as you like to hide away in the background, there's a badass inside of you, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And but when I say hide around in the background, I mean like with a friendship, I'd always pick a strong woman because I'd aspire to be that person, and I was so desperate to be seen. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I had a real like block, like I couldn't step forward into that, But yeah. I mean, I was a table dancer before that, so it's not like
wow.
Yeah.
Right. Again, another brave move, mate. I couldn't do that. So very, very brave. So what I love though is that this warrior has been inside of you for a very long time.
Yeah.
She's been held back in certain ways, and used certain ways to express yourself, but perhaps they weren't the authentic way that you wanted to express yourself. You wanted to use your voice rather than your body, or that kind of thing. So I think that will resonate with a heck of a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
I really do think, obviously predominantly for the women following, sometimes we feel that we do need to expose things or do certain things to get noticed or to be heard, but not from our voice. So actually that's a really, really beautiful, powerful message that you've got there that is inspiring. And so hopefully if any of the young girls that I know, I have a big following of young girls, actually, it's quite interesting. All of the ladies that come to my seminars, all their daughters follow, and they're like, oh my God, we love what you talk about. So I think that would be a really, really, really powerful message for them. The other thing that I wanted to ask you before we obviously step forwards into the self-love and the spiritual side of things is about your trip to Kenya.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because what's fascinating is I burnt out back in 2013, 2014, so about 10 years ago now, and it hit me so hard that I had to run away to a different country. So I know you were going off to do charity work and stuff, but I find it very interesting that these pivotal moments come, and almost like when we get extracted from our current environment, we get the gold.
Yeah. Definitely. So going away doing the charity work, it was a lady that did my hypnobirthing with my third little girl, Lola, which was just an incredible experience, totally different from the other two. So Jean, amazing lady. She was an ex-midwife, and I actually got in touch with her because I'd been in such a toxic environment with the housewives and come out of there, and I wanted to do something that was empowering to women. And then I was going to promote hypnobirthing, and I really wanted to like shout loudly about that. And then she said, "Oh, I've been to Kenya," and she'd been to with a grassroots charity looking at the female genital mutilation. And I sort of heard of it, but I didn't know the extent of what goes on and the stages there are, and absolutely horrific. Having 3 girls, I was just blown away and just really wanted to help her and do something to promote. Oh, sorry. No, somebody's ringing me enough because I've not put it on. Sorry, I don't know how to get rid of that.
Don't worry, that's all right. You're not cutting up anymore. You were, but now you are.
All right, I'm back.
All right, you're good.
Airplane mode. Oh wait, now you're a bit thinking because I'm not getting on 4G. Can you see me okay?
I can see you okay, yeah, but it might cut off if
Oh, you've
you're
come back now.
okay, cool.
Sorry, sorry.
Don't worry, it's obviously testing us today. The universe is obviously like, you know, we want these two to speak, but the demons are obviously saying not today, not today.
So I should just start again. So to start from Jean. Yeah. Lovely Jean. Yeah. So she did my hypnobirthing with Lola. I wanted to promote hypnobirthing, and she then told me about FGM, female genital mutilation, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't know the stages of what women go through. And I mean, it's all around the world that it happens, but she'd been to Kenya and was working with a grassroots charity that were trying to raise awareness and help these women and give them another option, a better way, because it is a cultural thing and it's a very deep-rooted cultural thing, and it's just barbaric, and it's just more about teaching them that the acceptance of someone who wasn't cut, a woman that wasn't cut, to be accepted to marriage. And it's usually the grandmothers that are enforcing it, which just blows my mind, even though the trauma that they faced having to go through the procedure. And then there's like the early marriage, you know, when the marrying men old enough to be the grandma because they get money and dowry for it. So we went to Kenya. I did a couple of charity dues. We went over to Kenya, and that was, I mean, coming from, I was like, Dorothy's definitely not in Kansas anymore. Coming from Cheshire, being in the Housewives, a TV series that is exploiting wealth and obviously the materialistic lifestyle that I had. Just blown me away, like these women that were, I mean, the people over there were so beautiful, but just living so simply, like I can't even tell you, you know, there was villages, like we went to see mud. I've got videos, and I need to really talk about this more because actually the charity is struggling a bit now because obviously with COVID and there was no help, and it was so, even though there was hardly, I don't think there was any cases, but they were being beaten when they were out, and it was horrific. So a lot of our girls, quite a few of them got sent back home from school. So when they're in school, they're staying there, and obviously they're protected. But then when they get sent home, that's when they're more at risk of being married off and cut, and it's obviously the money. So yeah, incredible experience, and I just wanted to continue to help empower women and do what I could, and so yeah, it was just an incredible experience. Jean's incredible.
I would love the charity details to go below as well. So if people can donate, I don't know how it works, but if you give me those details after this, Leanne, we'll pop that underneath as well. But I would love to learn more about this because I, like yourself, I'm here to empower women. I'm here to empower the human race to be their best version and remind them of their truth. And when you hear of tragic and treacherous things like this taking place, you know, we do need to do our bit. So if I can help in any way, shape or form, please do let me know. So you were in Kenya, you had this experience whereby you literally went from abundance to lack instantly. I'm going to ask you a very provocative question now. Where were the people happier?
In Kenya.
Right. And I think I knew you were going to say that without us even having this conversation, because, you know, I've traveled Thailand, Philippines, you name it, and these people have nothing, yet they are so much more happy than people in the Western countries. And I don't mean this is a blanket sweeping statement. I know, you know, some of you are really happy and all the rest of it, but predominantly the people that have less are, like, as in materials, are so much happier. And I find it a really interesting fact that we are bred, particularly in the Western world, to want more, to upgrade our partner, you know, like silly little things like Tinder and stuff. It's about upgrading the partner. You know, we've got to upgrade our car because now twice a year there's new number plates in the UK anyway. I don't know about the rest of the world, but you know, these kind of things, it's always the next. So it keeps us on this loop of having to chase the next best thing. You know, you hear the stories of needing the younger wife, or, you know, the younger man or whatever. Like, these cycles, they're perpetuated these days through normal life. You know, women aren't good enough these days. We've got to have this nipped and that tucked and this lifted because, you know, we need to defy age. And I just think it's so fascinating when we are able, and you've experienced this yourself. You can see huge levels of abundance and you are in that world, and then you go to huge levels of lack, and actually you recognize that the people who we perceive to be in lack are actually the abundance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because they don't have too many options, number one, do they? But also, if you look at education, we're groomed, like you say, we're conditioned to actually want to get, well, to a certain level in the majority of schools, like you just to get you on that hamster wheel of life, isn't it? Just to have us being the workers. But
Absolutely.
ultimately, I mean, education, I just wish that there could be, I know it's happening in small, like in small numbers, like schools taking schools starting their own way and educating children into how to deal with their own emotions and going within, and meditation itself should just be standard.
Yeah,
Instead of an assembly, you should be doing a meditation.
I agree. And do you know what's fascinating? So I've done a lot of travel over the years, and this one time I didn't even know why it happened, but I trust the universe. You know, I've been traveling intuitively since 2017 every day without question. And I ended up at one of my old colleagues' houses in Singapore. And I was always like, God knows how this has happened. Literally, she just messaged me on either Facebook or Instagram. We ended up talking, and she was like, next time you're in Singapore, come and stay with me and my family. And I never take people up on this. And then all of a sudden I ended up at her house, and the school that her children went to, every morning and every afternoon, they did meditation with the kids, and her kids were incredible. They were so balanced. I'm not saying they didn't cry and they didn't get upset or whatever, but they were so balanced because they knew, right, when I'm getting this feeling come up and I want to shout or I want to scream or I want to rant or rave, I'm going to go and sit and let myself feel it. And then I'm going to go through the process. And that was the whole reason I had to go and stay there, because I was always like, the schools are, you know, they're crazy. They're not teaching kids this stuff. But there are pockets, like you say. There are pockets of people that are coming through now to help awaken the remembrance of what actually works for us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, it was like with my kids, when they look at me and they see the transition that I've gone through, you know, my Hallie, when she was younger, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, well, she's 20 now, she's almost 21. And she said, a shopper like mummy. So that is what she thought I was as a job, you know, I had as a job, and not even a stylist, just a shopper. But then just looking at, obviously, kids they just watch what you do, they don't listen to what you say the majority of the time. And when I went on the show, one of the reasons I went on it, because I was doing a little clothes label for children, and I thought it'd be a great way of me to promote it. It's a real empowering TV series about women doing their own thing. How wrong was I? But ultimately, my middle one, Lilia, she then started doing some little sketches and started saying, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, a fashion designer. And then roll forward, when I written my self-help journal, it's Grace, Gratitude, Grit, Lola then started writing she was journaling about how to be your best version of yourself. And she was only about 5 or 6, I think, at that point. So it just shows you, you know, what you put into yourself will radiate to your children, not only your children, but anyone else that is looking up to you. And we change the world by changing ourselves, and everything starts with us, doesn't it? And even for me personally, like I had a healing session, or a theta healing session. I've done the theta healing courses with Tina Pavlou. Have you heard of Tina? So incredible lady, and it was actually Becky that got back in touch with me. And do you know Becky? She's amazing. She did, and that's who was saying, you know, you've got to look at how you're feeling about yourself and what's going on right now. And although I know you have to go through that transition and you have to be aware of where you are and honor it and everything, but it's just, I was wondering why the people in my lives, the people I was attracting were coming in, and also my family, some of family, like my girls, were treating me a certain way, and it's because I was in this I had no self-worth, like had very little self-worth. And it is like a roller coaster, isn't it? Like
It really is.
we can all say, yeah, we can teach self-love. And this is where I'm thinking, well, I've got imposter syndrome, or why are people going to listen to me? Because I don't love myself right now. But ultimately, it's very hard to continually love yourself when you've got things that are being thrown at you, and then you pull back into your past. And she asked me a question. She said, do you love yourself even though you're sabotaging? And I wanted to go, yeah, of course I do. But I said, no, I have to be honest. Like right now, I do not love myself. And that's when she said, that's why you're getting your girls treating you a certain way, because I didn't have enough self-worth, and that's the energy that I was putting out.
Absolutely.
So that, yeah, really was a bit of a lightning bolt to me, and got me back online. And it's things that we know, we teach and we talk about, but we're not superhuman either. We have to experience, and we're definitely on that journey. As much as we're sharing it, we're on it with everyone else, aren't we?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I love about what you just said. Like there is a real thread of relationships through your journey, isn't there? There really, really is. And the other thing that I just really want to just bring up into people's consciousness right now is when we become complacent, we get stung. I got complacent recently. You've obviously got complacent recently. Now, I've been doing this stuff for about 10 years now, and it's been such a wild journey, up, down, round and round, all over the place. So when I go through these moments, and I tell everybody that I go through these moments, I don't hide the fact that certain things happen in life, because actually I feel that it normalizes it. Now, I'm not saying we all want to bring in these dramas every year or every 6 years or whatever it is, because we don't want that at all. We actually want to step away from that. But sometimes we need to be humbled. And when we become complacent is when I look at it is I've been humbled. So I recently did hand my power over, and just kind of a bit like what you were saying at the beginning. And I went along with the flow and just, oh, I'm chilled and I'm this and I'm that. But then when I wanted to take my voice back, all of a sudden the shit hits the fan. And then it's about boundaries being put in place. And of course, if you haven't had boundaries, like the heads start to be butted, whether it's your children, whether it's a friend, whether it's your parents, it doesn't matter what relationship it is. But everything ultimately, whether you're on a spiritual journey, whether you're on a religious journey, it boils down to self-love.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And self-worth and all them attachments that we create over the years from our childhood. And that is definitely the stuff that's been coming up for me, about what my attachments and where they come from. And that's I'm saying about peeling back the layers, and like writing the course and talking about how being single now, and hoping that I'm going to find the guy that I want to bring into, like, and he's got a tall order to fill, but I've been writing this, journaling this guy that I'm bringing in, and I know that I have to level up to that version of the person that I want to bring in. And when I first separated, I was speaking to my friend, and I was like, she said, oh, you're not going to meet anyone for a good couple of years. And I'm like, yes, I am. And she said, well, you need to heal. And I was like, no, I don't say that. It's not going to be 2 years at all. And then here we are, like, well, realistically, it's probably been moved out 15 months ago, but it was over before that, so and that time has just flown. And I think that's the thing for me about time, is that it's quite scary. Like, I'm not really young anymore, and I think you're saying about women looking a certain way and being having to be society's version of what the perception of what a woman should look like, and trying to live up to that, and trying to keep your looks, and then worried that you're not going to attract anyone that's going to be see you for who you are. But then I need to be like, no, because it is about energy. It is an energetic connection, and when you've got that energetic connection with someone, then you know, I'm not saying it doesn't matter what you look like, you know,
there needs to be a physical attraction for sure.
But
it is, we are stepping much more into the world of the energetic exchange, aren't we, as we're vibrating higher. And this is why, and obviously I knew you and Wes had separated, but I'm sorry that happened. I'm sure everything's worked out the way that it needed to, otherwise you guys would still be together. But that doesn't take away from the pain that you go through when a relationship ends, whether you want it or not. A lot of my followers at the moment are messaging me, 20 years of marriage broke down out of the blue, you know, 30 years of marriage broke down out of it. Literally, people are constantly saying this at the moment. And whether it was out of the blue or not, it's none of my business to question. A relationship breaking down, whether it was 5 minutes, 5 years or 50 years, is a painful experience.
Absolutely.
And it sabotages your vibration.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've been coming to terms with lately, because I was so blinded, and I could have, well, if I hadn't had the knowledge that I've got now about the energy, the mind, and who we really are, and I would have been so lost, because I would either have been lost or have been jumped into another relationship that would have just been negative and toxic. And, you know, I'm not saying all my relationship with Wes was like that, but, and actually, thankfully, we are really good friends, which I'm so grateful for. But I'm 100% that doing things like the Ho'oponopono and the, you know, sending in love energetically has made a massive difference on that. And everything that's happening since then, as I've asked for, you know, I've asked for us to be, you know, amicable, but we are good friends, really good friends. And I want the children to be able to say that, saying that, wow, it is like a grieving process, and it is so hard. And I really, I'm so, like, I think about everyone that I know, from even that I'm friendly with, that have said to me, you know, it's really hard when you separate. And I never, even though it's still amicable and it was my choice, I never realized how hard it would be. Like you say, it is a grieving process, and a huge change, even just not being with my girls every day, and that being fractured has been a really difficult time as well. And, you know, they're old enough to choose whether they're staying at his or staying at mine. And even when I'm like, you come to my house, and like, no, I'm going to stay at Dad's tonight. It's like, it gets you, you know, and it shouldn't, because of, you know, but it does. And like, these are my little girls that I've had since, you know, I give birth to them, and
before they were born.
Yeah, and it's just, but everything's a lesson. Everything's here to teach us, isn't it? And yeah, I will just say to anyone, I have been getting quite a few messages of people that have like separated recently and are struggling, and it's just, when you read the messages and you read between the lines of these women, of what we're accepting, and what we're just accepting to be in a relationship that is not serving us. And that's because of our own self-worth, isn't it? And like you say, that's what it always boils down to.
Absolutely. And I love that I've just looked at the clock and it's 1:44.
Oh wow.
I literally haven't looked at the clock once, and I just looked and it's 1:44, and I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. Like, what other time would this be? So from my perspective, I feel that the rise of the divine feminine is taking place. And this is why so many relationships are breaking down right now. I truly believe that there has been a spell put over the divine masculine and over the divine feminine for many, many, many lifetimes. And because of these shifts in consciousness, and because the planets are moving into different positions and they're shifting, and by default of that taking place, obviously the vibration has to shift. What's happening now is that there are many men out there, particularly, that are struggling to hold on to and maintain the power, when in reality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine should be a mirror of each other and should be balanced. And the issue that we've got is because it hasn't been balanced for so many lifetimes. I don't know about you, Leanne, but I was very much in my masculine at some points. I used to work on the trading floor for investment banks. Trust me, I was like one of the boys. I'd walk in there and tell them to go F themselves and all sorts if they were giving it the whole, oh, nice legs, love. You know, So I had to step into my masculine energy. But of course, what's happened is we've all broken out of these cocoons that we were in, and now we're embodying the essence of truly who we are. And of course, it's making the men and the women get very scared. So men that are ascending, men that are going, I talk about it as an ascension, but it's not, it's the descent from your head into your heart space. And that journey right now, if men are prepared to do that and their partner isn't, their relationships are breaking down. Likewise on the flip reverse. And you could be so in love with somebody right now, like head over heels in love. If they don't get the memo, at some point, one or the other party that's stepping into their true essence is going to say, I love you, but I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so nice to see that there is things for men now, to help them heal.
Yeah.
Even though there's, like you say, it is the divine feminine. The feminine are the ones that are pushing forward at an alarming rate. And because of that, it's like the pickings at the moment, isn't it?
I know, we're all like, where are the decent men? Where are they? And then you think you found one and you're like, no, they're not prepared to work on themselves. Come on, boys, you can do it. We're cheering for you. And it's just a conversation I'm having constantly, with any man that I meet a lot of men, because you probably, like yourself, I go to the gym a lot. I've actually got a lot more male clients these days. And men want to do it, but they want to do it behind closed doors. They don't want people to know. And, and it's that stigma that has been created. You've got to be a lad's lad. You've got to love your football, or you've got to love your rugby, or you've got to, this kind of behavior. Whereas there are some incredible, true divine masculine men that are not interested in any of that stuff, but they are prepared to stand in their truth. They are prepared to protect and serve the divine feminine, like the divine feminine serves the divine masculine. Like, that's all we're here to do.
Yeah.
But I do truly believe that the feminine is knocking the masculine off their perch. And I know that's a triggering statement. And I know that almost sounds competitive. It's not meant to be. I truly believe that the nurturing, like if you think about it, if we talk about New Earth or Shambhala or whatever anybody wants to call it, what do you think about? Peace, love, harmony, tranquility, all of those balanced and beautifully high vibration emotions. Men do not bring in peace and tranquility. What they do is they protect, and they are, they're peaceful and tranquil until they have to go to war. So this is why the divine feminine has to rise right now, because if we want to go to that world, this is the shift that has to take place. The divine feminine needs to be the nurturer and almost like the guide, if you like, and the divine masculine is the protection, the muscles, and the speaking of the truth and just making sure that the boundaries are set and things like that. And that is the true, from my interpretation anyway, that is the truth of how we're going to get back balanced.
Yeah, the biggest thing is communication, isn't it? That's something that was definitely lacking in my relationship, and it's not just one-sided, and it's something that we just need to keep doing. We just need to keep talking about it, don't we? And basically speaking our truth and saying that what we need from them. And that's the thing. I think men have felt it's confusing because of this feminine power has come and stepped in. I mean, it started from like the suffragettes and all the rest of it, but that was obviously on purpose, as we know now, to separate the family unit, wasn't it? So there's been such a misinterpretation of what it is that we want and who we are, and now men are like, oh, I'm too scared, like, do I go forward and open the car door, or do I get to pay for half the bill myself? Or it's like they're so torn in, like, they're not sure what we want. And I suppose that's what we need to keep doing, is speaking about who we are and what we need from them. Absolutely. And know that they are needed in our lives. We can't do it for ourselves. We definitely need the men in our lives.
I think the point that you've just raised is that this was an intentional divide between the men and the women, like this, and this goes back many lifetimes. I was actually talking to a couple of my team about it just yesterday, because I'm on a bit of a wild journey at the moment doing certain things, and I was like, but this goes back tens of thousands of years, and they're like, Yeah, Lucy, it really does. Like, I can actually pinpoint the last time that the masculine and the feminine work together, like literally, because it just channels through. I don't know if you know, but I channel like a train. And so this information came through and I'm like, this was the last time. Since then, if you go back, you know, Cleopatra, you know, all of these like very, very well-known women over the years, the divide was already there. It was always the divide between the man and the woman. So when you actually go back through history, like this now moment that we're living in, we have a really huge opportunity here to say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, we need to come together. We need to pull both of our versions of self-love together so that we can get the awakening journey. Because most men will hear the word self-love. And I mean, like I say, I used to work on the trading floor, and I got asked by at least 5 different men that I worked with, you're teaching people how to masturbate?
Wow.
Wow, indeed. Right. And admittedly, this is a few years ago now, but that's the conversation I had to have. And I was like, where on earth are you at with yourself to think that it's about masturbation? You know, obviously things have changed over the last 5-10 years and self-love has become a little bit more accepted. But what does it look like to men these days? You know, because women used to think it was going getting your hair done and having your nails painted, but not anymore. It's like, give me bare feet in nature, or just go and meditate for an hour without the kids being there. You know, this is what people are looking for these days. And this evolution has been massive. Now, if you just look at the evolution of self-love, what in the next 5-10 years could the evolution of the masculine and the feminine coming back together and actually working as a partnership?
Yeah, that will be like mind-blowing, incredible. It will be the new world, won't it?
It will.
And just saying about, you know, going back to education, this is the kind of stuff that kids need to learn about, and loving yourself, saying self-love, or asking somebody, do they love themselves? You know, it's immediately thought of as a massive ego, and no, I don't. And funnily enough, I was speaking to a friend's little boy who was 8, and I said to him, I've also written 6 children's books, which
that's amazing. Congratulations.
Well, I've not done anything with them yet. I've got a couple of illustrations per book, and I've got the characters and everything. It's all ready to go, but I've just not had the time and funds to put into publishing. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go with them yet, but
I'll introduce you to somebody. I'll connect you with somebody who will probably be able to help guide you in whichever way you want to take it.
Amazing, because they are about different aspects of mindfulness, and everything's got a different theme. They're all underwater, and we've got crystals involved in them. Beautiful. And so we were talking about the book to this little boy, my friend's little boy, and I said, do you love yourself? Because we had the rose quartz in the book, and I was telling him about the crystals and what they mean, and I said, do you love yourself? And he said, no. And I was like, why not? And he said, I just don't. And it was like, even though at 8 years old, he's so aware of not wanting to say he loved himself. And he said, God loves everyone. And I said, you're right, God does love everyone. But do you know where God is? And he said, in the sky. And I said, God isn't just in the sky, God's everywhere. And God is also in you. He said, that means you do love yourself. And he was like, oh yeah, you know, and just beautiful. That story of, and this is why I've written the books, and this is why I want to, you know, reach the children. We need to reach the children on a mass scale, and this is why talking about self-love and our thoughts and our connection to our bodies, and the love is who we are at the core of our being, isn't it? So, really, and that's what should be educated with, you know, from parents, but we've been completely like blindfolded in that, haven't we, from when we were younger? And it's only now that we're realizing how important it really is.
It really is. And whilst you've been talking, it keeps coming into me that, because I run something called Soul School. I don't know if you know that, but I run something called Soul School, and I've done seminars all over the place with it. But we're going to be doing the next in-person one in October. And I just keep being told she needs to be at Soul School. She needs to be at Soul School. So I'm going to speak to you offline about maybe you coming and speaking at the next Soul School, because we align so much, Leanne. And I love it when people hear it's the same message, but from a different voice. And I think it's so important, because sometimes it's just that different voice or that different person, or there is something in your story that someone would be like, oh my God, I connect with that. And then the message actually lands. So we'll speak about that offline. I could speak to you all freaking day. I I really could. I've loved this conversation so much. And honestly, if you're open, I would love to do some more of these, and we can just evolve maybe the relationship discussions. We can talk about the educational discussions. I think it might be quite fun at some point to talk about the stuff that we did, you know, around the protests and things like that.
Absolutely.
I'm not interested in the messages really about that, but it's the driver, the reasons that we got involved in those things, and our passion, and how we're refocusing that on creating consciousness and self-love around the world now. I think people need to hear that stuff.
Yeah, because that, saying housewives was the beginning of it, but that was when it really pushed me into the forefront of speaking my truth and censorship, and got my account nuked and all the rest of it. So
didn't we all love? Didn't we all?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. My Facebook account, literally, I was doing some work in there because my business, I used to have all my groups on Facebook and stuff. I was in there one night, it was a Friday, about 7:30, and I was doing something, and all of a sudden my account shut down. I went, oh, that's a bit weird. Went to log back in, your account has been deleted. And I was like, hang on a minute, at least give me my photos back. They wouldn't do it. Nothing.
No. Well, I kept my Facebook because my Facebook was private, so I wasn't open. So they just did my Instagram. It was like the morning of going to one of the London protests that happened. Yeah. And it was Sam, Samantha.
Samantha.
Yeah. So she was like, where's your account? I woke up in the morning in the hotel. I was like, oh shit. So I'd already started another one and then did the podcast and stuff. So I felt it, I knew it was coming, but yeah, it's been a journey, hasn't it?
It really has been. And you know what? It's good that we can sit here and laugh about the fact that we were censored. People have tried to shut our voices down. And now when people try to take my voice, I'm like, bring it on. If I can go out there in front of tens of thousands of people and speak my truth, like, bring it on, and that's not me calling it in universe. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Leanne, it's been absolutely amazing to speak with you. I would like I say, I would love to do some more of these videos with you whenever it's convenient. But ladies and gents, please, in the comments, do let Leanne know how grateful you are to her for showing up. And fingers crossed, we'll see her again super, super soon. Leanne, thank you so much, babe.
I was just going to say about putting the links onto the retreats as well that we've got in July.
Yeah, of course. Everything will be underneath this video. So all you need to do is send it over to me. And ladies and gents, all the links will be below for everything. So to be able to contact Leanne, to be able to contact myself, just go and take a little view over those, and you'll have the links to absolutely everything. All right. Thanks, Leanne. It's great to speak to you, babe. I'll just stop the recording. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye.